Okay, so now we're going to do a video on probability from tables. Now again, this is quite a common question, and so it's worthwhile knowing how to do this because this comes up in a lot of exam papers. Okay, so if we read through it, Sandy has a four-sided spinner. The sides of the spinner are labelled A, B, C and D, and the spinner is biased. Now the word biased means that it favours one, it's more likely to land on one side than the other. So if you have a look here, the probability it's going to land on A is 0.15, probability it's going to land on B is 0.32, probability it's going to land on C is 0.27, and we've got to work out the probability that it's going to land on D. Now the first thing that we need to know, that in all probability tables, they always add up to one whole one. So what we're going to do is we're going to add up this probability, this one and this one, then find out what we need to add on top of that to make it add up to one whole one. So that's going to be 0.15. Whenever you're adding decimals, you need to make sure that you write them in column fashion. It doesn't make too much difference this time round, but on the next question we do, it will make a difference. So if we add those together, 5, 2 and 7 make 14. 1 and 3 is 4, 5, 6 plus the carried over 1 is 7. So 0.74. So what do we need to add on to 0.74 in order to make it up to a whole one? That's going to be 1 take away 0.74. which makes 0.26. Again, if you want to, you can do 1.00 take away 0.74 and do it that way. But either way, you should end up getting 0.26. Now, the next one, again, it will be a calculated question probably, but if not, we'll have a look at how to do it. Okay, so, like I said, this one comes up a lot, so it doesn't matter if you've got a calculator or not, but it will say that Sandy spins 300 times, so it's a probability question with a table, and it will say an event happens a number of times. So here we've got 300, so it's going to be 300 times by the relevant probability, and in this case it's asking about A, so the probability is 0.15. So for your first mark, because this is a 2-mark question, it's going to be 300 times by 0.15. And then if you've got a calculator, that comes up as 45 as your answer. If you haven't got a calculator, you've got to work this out in your head. So there's two ways of doing it. You can either do 300 times by 0.15, which is multiplying with decimals, or you know that 0.15 is 15 cents. So we've got to do 15% of 300. So 10% equals 30, 5% equals 15, so 15% equals 45. And that gives us the same answer as if you had a calculator. Okay, so the next question is going to be, again, it's very, very similar, but we've made it there's one slight change which we'll go through in a second. So now, Luke has coins in a bag with gold, silver, brass, and of course a chocolate coin. The table shows probability of picking out any particular coin, so gold is 0.22, silver is 0.4, and chocolate is 0.19. Right, I haven't written this question out properly, so we want to work out the probability that we pick a brass coin. So just like the last one, we've got 0.22, we've got 0.4, we've got 0.19. So we need to add this one together to make it add up to a whole one. So if we add these together, we've got 0.22, 0.4, now again 0.19. Like I said, it's really crucial that when you write these out, you write them in a column form. So the biggest mistake that people make, when they do 0.22 plus 0.4, they get 0.26, because that's incorrect. It should be, when you add 0.22 and 0.4, the 4 is in the first column, so that should be 0.62. And dozens and dozens of people make that mistake all the time, so don't feel bad if you've made that mistake. But yeah, that's the importance of writing it in this way. So if we add the two columns, so the second column, 2 plus blank here plus 9 is going to be 1, carry the 1. Then you've got 2 plus 4, which is 6, plus 1 plus another 1, that's going to be 8. So 0.81. So these three add up to 0.81. What do you need to add on to 0.81 to make up to a whole one? A lot of people find it easy to think of this as 81 and adding it up to 100. So that's going to be 19, so this one's going to be 0.19. Okay, so the next question, Luke picked out 400 coins. Work out an estimate for the number of coins that are silver. So again, it's worth getting that first mark, because you see it's worth 2 marks. The first mark is for doing the number of times the event happens, which is 400, times by the relevant probability. So if it's silver, that's a probability of 0.4. So it's 400 times by 0.4. And if you've got a calculator, that gives you 160. If you don't, you need to know that 0.4 or 0.40 is the same as 40%. So 10% of 400 equals 40. 20% of 400 equals 80. 40% equals 160, which gives us the same answer. Like I said, I don't mind if you use a calculator or not with this. It's all about the understanding that we're looking for. So now, it's your turn. And we've got 2 questions here. We've got this one. And if I give you a couple seconds just to read through this one, then you can pause the video and have a go at this. And then once you've done that, we've got this question here. So now what I want you to do is pause the video, have a go at this, and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, so hopefully you've paused the video. So now let's go through in exactly the same way as we have done the past 2 questions. So we need to work out the probability that Emily has, and she has a big bag of hair ties. The table shows probability of picking out any particular colour. So we've got to work out the probability that she picks out an orange. So we've got to work out the probability in this table. So we do 0.08, we add up all the other probabilities. 0.13, 0.49, we add those together. 8 plus 3 is 11, plus 9 is 20. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 2 is 7, so 0.70. What do we need to add on to 70 to get up to 100? That's going to be 30. So it's either going to be 0.30 or you can write that as 0.3. They're both exactly the same. Next one, Emily picks out 200 hair ties. Work out an estimate for the number of red hair ties that she picks out. So again, we've got a probability question, it's got a table, and it's got a number of events. So it's going to be 200 times by the relevant probability. So 200 times by its red hair ties, so times by 0.08. So that's going to be 8% of 200. So 10% of 200 equals 20. 1% of 200 would be 2. So 2% would be 4. So 8%, you're going to do 10% take away 2%, leaving you with 16. So the answer for this one is 16. Next question. Ali owns a car supermarket. The table shows the probability of selecting at random any given car. So we've got a Range Rover, Mercedes, VW and Renault, and they should all add up to one whole one. These questions are pretty much always the same. So what we do is we add together these 3 probabilities. Notice that this one though is 0.2, so make sure you write that out properly. So 0.38, 0.2, 0.17, you add those together, that's going to be 5, carry the 1, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you've got 0.75. So what do you add on to 0.75 to get up to a whole one? That's going to be 0.25. Doesn't matter if you write it here or on the answer line. Either way, you're going to get the mark. Ali randomly selects 300 cars for a car show. Work out an estimate for the number of Range Rovers she takes. So it's going to be 300 times by the relevant probability, so times by 0.38. And then if you, so let's do it a slightly different way. Let's do 300 times by 38. So we get rid of the decimal place, so 300 times by 38, 3 times 3 is 9 with 3 zeros, 3 times 8 is 24 with 2 zeros, add those together, that's going to be 11,400, but it's not 300 times 38, it's 300 times 0.38, so that's 2 decimal places. So you stick in 2 decimal places and you get 114, so it's 114 that she gets, or that she takes. And that's that. So well done if you've got them all correct. If not, feel free to watch the video again.